Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to our live reinvention show. This is the place where our global community comes together to explore how can we not just survive the constant uncertainty and disruption we're facing today, but actually thrive in it. And it's always beautiful to see what a diverse community this brings together across different industries, across different types of organizations, both for profit and non-profit, and it's beautiful to see how many different specialties and experts from different fields come together. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Thursday, January 27th, 2022. It's our show on cases. Today, my guest will share his favorite cases on reinvention and even has a surprise for you. But before we turn it off to the amazing Gary Graham, let me ask you where you join us from. Michael is always first, so he already shared that he is here from Düsseldorf, Germany. I am still in Columbus, Ohio, United States, and Gary is joining us from South Africa. He will let us know where about. But let me know in the comments where you're joining us from and how you're doing today. Our task here with the entire global reinvention movement is to make sure that we share best practices, tools, research, and also on the ground field tested solutions around turning uncertainty, disruption, and the high speed of change into very, very, very useful opportunity so that it's not just we are buckling up and trying to survive until things stabilize, but we actually are thriving in it. So let me know where you're joining us from. Let me know that you can hear me and see me. This is very important that we can make sure that the connection is working. We are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Where are you joining us from? How are you doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. And I would love to see us. I see Cape Town is here. Beautiful to see. If you want me to know your name, there's a video where you're watching the stream. Right above that video, there should be a text with a link that allows you to show your face. I see Belarus here. Beautiful. Our team member Stanislav is here from Minsk, Belarus. And Julia Schmidt is here from Oslo, Norway. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I see more people join. This is great. Crispin is here. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. So it's my great honor to bring to the stage today's guest. Very often during reinvention shows, it's more about research or overview of some ideas. But also, I try to bring some of my favorite guests to the show to share their work on the ground, or book authors, or corporate executives. And today, my guest is on one end, a business owner himself, and on the other end is a prolific advisor, consultant, and coach to others. Gary Graham joins us from South Africa. He's, of course, a founder of his own consulting group, Three Eyes Group, but in addition to that, co-founder of the Center for Reinvention in South Africa. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and hello to everybody. We are joining you from deep in the African bush, so excuse the perspiration. We are sweating like crazy this side.
But you are working on a real life case as we go, right? You are in the
Yes,
middle of
absolutely. So we're joining you from a live case at the moment, which we'll share a little bit of later.
Absolutely love it. So we have people here joining who are very familiar with reinvention and very not familiar, so very new to the concept of reinvention. Can you start us off with your definition of what reinvention is?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about energy. How do we maintain or increase the energy of a system, and sometimes the components of a system? So often we talk about the level of life. I prefer to use energy. And ultimately, it's about sustainability for a system. You know, whether that is a big corporate, a small family-owned business, maybe even a family, or even an individual.
Love that. So reinvention is the art and science of sustaining and maintaining the level of energy in a system. I love that. Whether that is a company, a product, a process, a family, doesn't matter. But of course, your practice is very heavy in business. You've had a long career in business environment, working with both large corporations, including publicly traded company, and medium and smaller size businesses, and of course, social entrepreneurship. So I know you have stories to tell. And kick us off with a case that warms your heart right now. Your three favorite reinvention cases is a topic of today's stream.
Thank you. So let me wind you all up by saying one of my favorite cases is actually sitting right next to me here, and you'll get to meet him in a minute. Um, but some of the, I think, more powerful cases from a learning point of view have been over the last 22 months or so almost 2 years. Uh, Three of them involve reinventing HR for greater value and sustainability. I call them hacking HR, but
Mhm.
sometimes that terminology doesn't go down too well because it implies a butchering. But
Sure.
that's actually come from a client who gave us a very early piece of work in my reinvention journey. And the
Mhm.
challenge was how does HR show up for greater relevance? Um, how does it show up in a way that the client is really wowed with the value add? From a customer service point of view, I think we passed the stage of great customer service. Customers want to be wowed, and so the same principle applies internally in an organization. So that was the challenge. Also linked to that was an excess of cost in this particular multinational. We've had two reinventing HR projects in multinationals. Um, and so one of the things that we used, and I don't have my paper and pen to draw now, but the three circles around implementing reinvention in a system or in an organization. So sometimes it's embedded, sometimes it's outsourced, at other times it's embedded in the line function. And we used that actually as an, let's call it, an operating model for HR, and went down exceptionally well. From a cost point of view, it facilitated almost a 60% reduction in the salary bill for HR. Um, some of the lessons from that one, uh, yeah, I think we could have done a lot better at facilitating buy-in from the crowd affected by these changes. There was a lot of resistance. And so while we sort of realized the monetary value, I know that there's been some challenges around the impact on the culture. So the model works, the savings are there, and it's likely that that model is going to stay. So the model that they ended up with was a combination of outsourced with having HR embedded in the line.
And just to mention, those of you who have the copy of the book, this is page 157, the three types of org design for renewal. And that's what Gary is referring to. So it's page again 157, the ABCs of self renewal organizational design. And it's a combination of A and B that you end up designing for this
That's
company.
the one.
Those of you who are new to this, there is a free 85-page preview of this book that will show up in your comments right now. You can download and learn more about it. So great progress, and also quite a bit of resistance, which is what we naturally see in a lot of companies. How do you usually deal with the resistance?
So I must say now, with some added tools in the kit, I deal with a lot differently. But a little while ago, I kind of saw that as a bad thing, as a negative. I'd get very judgmental, and sometimes sort of question my own capability, not recognizing that this is a normal part of the system and is actually a very healthy sign. And if we're able to tap into that resistance, there's actually a significant amount of wisdom
Yes,
sitting in that no vote, if I can put it that way. And
absolutely.
so I think in the last year and a half, we've got a lot better at learning to work with the resistance,
Mhm.
rather than seeing it as something that needs to be contained or sort of cauterized or cut out of the system.
Well, want to remind everyone who's listening, if you're facing resistance to change, you're facing a group of people who are deeply passionate, because impassionate people, people who don't give a damn, will never resist. So you're actually facing a very caring group of people who are there to do the best to preserve the company. Just this is their way to do it. And the more you respect the passion they bring to the table, the easier it is to convert resistance into a constructive force. So, love that case. What about another case? Give us something else.
So the other one is one that's currently underway. It's been a long process, but it's with a big listed entity in South Africa wanting to take uh, the reinvention method into practice management in the insurance industry. So taking the concepts into folks that run practices where they are giving advice or financial advice, and it's a significant, I would say, from my interpretation, departure, a significant attempt to actually shift an entire industry. It's an attempt to shift, well, here's a subsystem, but the impact actually reaches quite a big ecosystem. And so that's one that's currently underway. I'm very excited about that. Uh, as I said, it's been a long slog. I think we've been working on it for almost a year, if not longer. Um, and why I'm excited is that that was a pitch, not that I had to do, but where somebody actually reached out, based on the work that they've been doing and the results that they've been seeing elsewhere. Uh, the one of the big takeaways there. So the program is ready to go. Uh, we have a small team ready to deliver. We can't wait to get started. But I think the big lesson for me there, because it's also about managing my own expectations, is sometimes it's not going to work as quickly as you're expecting it to work. To actually get going, and particularly in the big corporates, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot. I'm learning to get more comfortable with that, as opposed to smaller enterprises, family-owned businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, where we can get cracking a lot quicker. Um, so you've got to almost develop the appetite to be comfortable that that wheel's going to turn maybe a little bit slower, but once you get going, then you start to speed up.
I love that. And just to clarify for our listeners, the traditional financial advisory services are helping you manage your wealth. But the management of wealth was built on the idea of loan cycles. So the whole assumption of how you think about wealth, how you manage, what kind of portfolio you build, what kind of risk appetite you have, what kind of products you bet on, and how to think about them in short economic cycles where everything is changing very quickly and very volatile. That's a whole different way of thinking about wealth in the perspective of time. So what Gary is helping financial service industry is actually embed the reinvention mindset and tool set and skill set inside the offer, which is a very, very complex undertaking. And I love this case because it's thinking about the mission, what that we brought to the world collectively as a collective reinvention movement. Our mission is 1 billion people with reinvention skills. It doesn't matter how we get there. Maybe we get there because a financial advisor is teaching you basic of reinvention as a part of your financial literacy, which is beautiful. And I think that's a perfect win-win. I love that case. Love that case, Gary.
So if I may just add, so the there are parts of the sector that sort of tend to be a lot more agile than others. Some of the institutions have been around for a very long time. Um, But there's also been some innovation and changes. So you have some big entities where they've brought coaching into the offering. So where the advisor is utilizing coach competency to partner with a client in in their financial planning. Uh, but obviously, you need to be bringing more. There's a need to constantly reinvent for relevance. So I'm very excited about this one, just to see where. I have no idea where it's going to go, but to see the impact that we likely to create there.
I love that. And to piggyback on the concept of patience, relationship to time when it comes to reinvention is crucial. We always speak about how when is the most critical question, because if you reinvent too late, the statistics show that your chances of maintaining or reverting back to your peak historical performance are only 10%. And if you reinvent too early, you might accidentally kill yourself because the economics or the infrastructure or other conditions are simply not yet ready. I often use the example of the iPad that Apple had its first tablet in the 90s. The product and the company was ready, but the system was not ready. The internet was not there. The connectivity and digitization, accessibility of digital solutions was not there. The millions of people who develop their own apps and provide them through the iPad were not there, and on and on and on. So you might be ready, but the ecosystem is not ready. And this is the story of reinvention. Sometimes to speed up, you need to slow down. You need to get very, very still. And you need to be careful with the sequencing. What goes first, what goes second, what goes third. Not so much the prioritization, because you might have something of very high priority, but in the sequence of events, it needs to come ninth or eighth. And sometimes something is very minute, but if you don't do it at the right time, ahead of the big transformation, your whole big transformation will fall apart. So I love that case for appreciation of the dance of speed and slowing down. I think that is very crucial.
Yeah.
Love that. And bring us to the third case, which will be very special because it will be a live case.
Yeah, so thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce, and some in this community already know him, Reinvention Souls, and he can talk about his own case.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, I'm Ikshan, and I currently am the CEO of a substantially large company operating in the telecom sector.
Beautiful.
I know Gary for the last 10 years. We coached together and then worked in a bunch of subsystems and systems to shift those systems. A few years ago, I wanted Gary involved in a particular case, and I really did not find the opportunity to get Gary involved in that particular case. The organization that I'm talking about in particular is an organization in the telecom sector, the ICT sector, and in essence, the organization required a shift in order to compete quite aggressively in a market that was rapidly being filled with international competitors. And a big part of what this organization mission was to create jobs. Unfortunately, the system itself was not ready for reinvention. And in the process of trying to actually support the organization in shifting the system, I realized that some systems perhaps are not ready to shift, and therefore perhaps are not worthy of being saved. And as a consequence, one of the decisions I had to make was to exit the system. But what it did do, it gave me some substantial insights and thoughts around what was necessary to create change in organizations. And one of those things I had to be mindful of when entering a system was to determine where in the organizational life cycle this particular system was. And so my current organization when I engaged the board of the current organization, it became very clear that this is a really exciting organization to be part of. It's an organization that was ready for change. It involves not only a subsystem, which involves my business, but other subsystems in a larger systems business. And then the interesting part is that it involved a much broader ecosystem of some 150,000 touch points. So the case is currently live. And in fact, today we achieved a pretty good milestone, and that milestone was having Gary facilitate the first reinvention workshop with the leadership team, not just my own leadership team, but also the leadership team from other subsystems in the broader organization, with a view to actually making a fairly substantial impact in a broader ecosystem. So I'm very excited about the journey that we've actually embarked on at the moment in this particular organization.
It's lovely to hear. So tell us a little bit of what are you hoping to achieve as you're bringing reinvention to the entire ecosystem? What's the goal?
Sure, what's possible? I think that's probably the first question I need to ask. I think there's so much possible within this organization, so much possible for this organization to achieve within this broader ecosystem. I think at its core, what we want to do is we want to touch the lives of millions of people in the country through the products and services that we are offering. And there's a tangible way in which those products and services contribute towards improving the lives of people. So ultimately, we want our products available within every single retail outlet that's available within the country. Currently, we have about 150,000 points of presence in the country. So there's still quite a couple of 100,000 to go. Yeah.
Beautiful. You mentioned this transformation from an organization or movement from an organization that you had to leave because it was not ready to finding an organization that seems ready. Can you tell us what criteria or what markers should we look for to decide, is this system ready? Is this company, is this team, is my department ready? How do we know? Does this company or does this department deserve to be saved and can be saved, or should we just accept that this is running its course and move on to wherever the benefits are still there, there's still potential? How do you know?
Yeah, Nadia, I think the first thing is obviously, is there a reasonable expectation of change within the organization? In other words, when you come into an organization or when you engage with the organization, is there a reasonable perspective that people have that things need to change within the organization? And I think one gets to get a sense fairly rapidly, if you know what to look for, whether there's readiness for change. I think that's unfortunately, at the time that I entered the organization, I haven't gone through or done any of the reinvention easy labs or training. So I think that's the first marker of determining whether there's a readiness for change, is whether people acknowledge that there's readiness for change.
I love that.
I think the second thing is there a sufficient burning platform in the organization? So in other words, is there something that is so substantially broken in the organization, and is people aware of that brokenness, and is it causing sufficient amount of pain in order for people to accept that change needs to happen? So that would be the second marker for me. And I presume the third marker would probably be, is there capacity for change within the organization?
Not just the will, but also the capacity. Yeah. Love those markers. And by the way, for everyone who is listening, of course, Ikshan is talking about the opportunity that we offer every few months to participate in a free 5-day workshop called Easy Reinvention Lab, to learn some of the foundational introductory skills around reinvention. So, of course, you're welcome to join us at the end of February, and there will be a link in the comments where you can register. It's 5 days, it's live, it's interactive, and it's an easy way to see is your company ready? Because the first thing that happens on day one is we teach you how to test your company, how ready you are for change, and what is going on. I want to ask both of you actually a question on what would be your advice for those who are just starting out? So both Ikshan from the point of view of being inside the company, and Gary from the point of view being a kind of shepherd or um, a person who guides many different organizations. What would be your advice? One, two, three max pointers for those who are just starting out and they're like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't even know how to think about it. What would be a good first places to explore? Maybe questions, maybe things to do that you would advise to those who are starting out?
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. I think one of the first things I would advise people to do is to go, in order to go fast, you need to go slow. So, in other words, I know it sounds really crazy, but I think my previous tendency was to go into the organization and do something quite substantial within the first 100 days. And unless you actually know the system, the capacity that the system have for change, it becomes very difficult to be purposeful in actually bring about change in the organization. So I was very purposeful in not actually doing anything substantial in the first 100 days, but instead actually chose to take the leadership team on a particular journey. And that journey really involved understanding, what will have them show up as leaders within the organization, what needs to be present within the organization in order for this organization to thrive, etc. And so, taking the leadership team through that process really allowed us to arrive at this point today where the team was pretty ready to go on an actual reinvention journey. Up until now, I didn't really use the word reinvention at all. So that for me would be the key aspect to success.
Absolutely.
In journey.
Love that. Take the time to build the foundations. Like when the soil is not prepared, nothing you put in that soil will survive. And if you have not thought about the sun and the water and everything else, you are just wasting your time. And of course, I always say, forget the language. Don't get attached to any language that you think is fashionable, whether it's reinvention, innovation, change management, disruption, or whatever other fancy word that is coming this way. Use the language that is constructive inside the company. Don't go fashionable because it's not helpful. We need to be constructive and we have to speak the language that the system understands. Gary, what about you? What would be your advice? I think it's a beautiful advice to go slow, to build the foundation. What about you?
I think if you hear and you're listening to this session, this show, whether it's live or you checking a recording, something's brought you here, something's hooked you, something's intrigued you. I'd get really curious about what that is. If you are new to reinvention, reach out to the community in so many different formats, the regional chapters, the Reinvention Academy, the Reinvention Society on Facebook, and get curious about the impact that the method and the tools and the movement is actually having in real time. And whatever your gut or your intuition tells you you should be doing next, go with your gut.
Love that. So listen to yourself, listen to what's going on. And in general, our goal is to show you the diversity. So here's 3 cases. Reinventing HR, and this is an internal process and org design project. Reinventing financial services by embedded reinvention into what the financial advisor does. That's reinventing a product, but very fundamental reinvention of product. And reinventing a telecom business where you see a completely different story of slow slow movement in reinventing the DNA of the company, right? The very essence of the mindset of the company. Telecom, finance sector, pretty much any sector with a functional focus. I think that's the what excites me the most is what diverse set of cases are coming their way. Anything else? What's happening next? What do you think is the year 2020 has to do, has to offer for our global reinvention movement?
I think we're going to see a lot more diverse case studies coming through. I'm sensing an appetite for more, while there's an opportunity for us to really deepen the application of the existing tools. And I'm seeing a year of a lot of internal support, I think, particularly within the Certified Reinvention Practitioner community. And so my big goal for this year is to focus on growing that community and supporting that community.
I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Guys, send your love and support to both Gary and Ishan. We are so thankful that in the middle of a strategic session, you took the time, found the internet, being outside in Africa, showed up here to share your stories with us. We so appreciate. Seriously, like you went above and beyond to be here. We so appreciate it. Thank you for taking time. We could see your strategic team behind you in still in exercises. So we so appreciate you taking time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Wonderful, and see you very soon. And for our global community, there you have it. Some exciting cases. For those of you who are very new to this work, we do invite you to download the free 85-page preview of the Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook. It's in your comments. And in that handbook, what you will find is two different tools, a very introductory tool, the Titanic Syndrome test, and very advanced tools, Telestrategy model. And also one of the other case, a very different type of case on reinvention for Pinzone company. And those of you who feel like you're ready to try more and you want to roll up your sleeves and actually do some work and practice, we offer a free live workshop called Easy Reinvention Lab. It happens for about an hour a day, hour and a half with homework. That's all you need. You can bring your team and you can get testing without any risk involved. So we would love to see you at the next lab. I see some love going towards our speakers from Portugal, from, of course, Europe, from another place in Europe, Germany. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. And with that, I wish you an amazing finish of the year. You see, I already feel like a year. An amazing finish of the week, an amazing finish of this month. We're coming up to the end of January. I don't know what happened, but the January is off, guys. We're done. So it's a strong start of the year. It's very volatile start of the year, an intense start of the year, but I have a great feeling about 2022. So let's finish January strong. Let's have an amazing weekend. And I will see you at the next show. Thank you so much for being with me. Bye, everyone.